If you lift weights in the gym with good technique and within your capacity, you will never become injured in the gym. But most people skip the first step, good technique. If you're someone who's just starting out in the gym and want to get fit and in the best shape of your life, you must train functional movements, but you don't want to get injured in the process. So therefore, you must take the time to learn proper technique. In this video, I'm going to show you the 3 principles that you can apply to learning the technique of any movement in the gym, so you don't feel awkward when lifting and you can build some real confidence in your training and look after the long-term health of your body. So the first principle is going to be tempo. So when lifting weights, we're all moving at a certain tempo. Most just aren't aware of the tempo that we're moving at. So to learn proper technique, first of all, you want to slow the movement down so you can really feel for each position that you're putting your body in. So if we take the push-up, for example, you start in the plank position and then you lower your chest to the ground and then you push yourself away and you lock back out in that top position. If you wanted to learn proper technique of that, you can really slow down the movement so you can feel each joint moving and feel which muscles you should be working throughout the movement. So a good way to apply this is to begin with the tempo of 3 seconds eccentric, so 3 seconds lowering, and then 3 seconds concentric, so 3 seconds lifting. You can apply this to any movement. So we're going to demonstrate this with the push-up, but it can be applied to the squat, to the pull-up, to pressing overhead. Any sort of movement has a lowering phase and a lifting phase. And if you put some specific times and tempos to those phases of the movement, you'll be able to move with much more control and much more confidence, and you'll actually be able to learn the movement rather than just mindlessly go through it. So for the push-up, if we wanted to do 3 seconds down and 3 seconds up, we'd begin in the plank position. The push-up specifically, you want to be thinking about rolling back through your shoulders so you can externally rotate at your shoulder and engage your chest muscles. And then from there, it's 3 seconds down, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Now, obviously, this makes it much, much harder. So you can scale that back, and I would recommend scaling that back to going from your knees or doing the press up on the box, so you can really focus on the tempo and not necessarily the difficulty of the movement. Once you get more experience with the tempo, with the technique that you're using, then you can start to increase the difficulty and get maximum muscle adaptation from doing the movement one with the tempo or just more reps with higher volume. The biggest mistake people make with this is that they try to go too fast. So they give themselves the tempo of 3 seconds and they go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Be very slow, be very intentional with the movement, and try and be as controlled as possible. Another mistake people make is that they don't progress it. They just stay at the same tempo the whole time. Each week when you come back and do this, increase the tempo. Go for 3 seconds, and then go for 4 seconds up and down, then 5 seconds, and 6 seconds, and 7 seconds. Once you get to 7 seconds, you can start to speed up a little bit, and you can just start to focus on the eccentric, which is the way down. So if you spend, once you get to 7 seconds up and down, that's really impressive, but then you can go 3 seconds down, 1, 2, 3, and push away quickly in that top position. 1, 2, 3, and push away. That way you're gonna still be practicing proper technique and make sure that you're moving safely and efficiently in the gym, but you can start to build some real strength and some real power and real intensity behind your training so that you can continue to see progress and adaptation. This all comes together with like learning proper technique to make you move more efficiently. When you can do it slowly, you can do it fast, and that means you get more reps in and you can be more efficient and see better progress. Now, the second principle is going to be holds. So you want to learn to hold, you want to have the ability to hold good positioning of your body. Now, positioning is very important for learning proper technique. Being aware of what position your body is in is going to allow you to make sure that you're moving safely and efficiently when lifting weights and working through the technique of the movement. So there are 3 main positions that you need to learn to hold when trying to break down a movement and learn proper technique for that specific movement. So we take the deadlift, for example. There's 3 positions that we want to learn and be very aware of our positioning of our body in the movement. So first of all, we're going to start with the start position. This is where the weight's on the floor. Usually there's a little bit of weight on the side. So the start position is around about just below mid-shin. So in the deadlift, I'm thinking about keeping my hips just above my knees and my shoulders slightly out in front of my hands with my back flat. A lot of people come down too low, or they're up too high, or their feet are too wide. You want to find that position and practice holding still and steady in that position for a count of about 3 to 5 seconds. So from there, that's start position 1, 2, 3, and keeping at the same angle of my back. I'm driving through the floor and holding again at the knee. This is the second position. 1, 2, 3, and then the last position is you're going to come up to the finish. 1, 2, 3, and then come back down. So there's 3 positions there that you have to learn: the start position, the midway position, and the finish position. You're really focusing on which muscles you're lifting with and the position of your body. Specifically in this, we're focusing on the angle of the torso. So when we come from mid shin to the knee, the angle of the torso doesn't change. A lot of people will come back or they'll lift their hips up like this. You want to keep that the same till here. That's what you're really focused on. You're focused on driving through your legs, using your upper leg muscles, and then opening up your hips, squeezing your bum in that top position. So when you're focusing on the holds, you want to focus on holding for 3 to 5 seconds in the start position, mid position, and finish position to ensure that you're very aware of your body. The biggest mistake people make is that they're just focusing on the hold. They're trying to they shut their mind off and they just close their eyes and they hold 1, 2, 3, and at the knee 1, 2, 3, and they're not really thinking about anything. You want to be very aware of your body. You want to really think about, okay, which muscles am I lifting with? Where am I bracing? What is the position of my joints? And then you can think about holding and being very aware of your body. When you can hold each position, then you can start speeding up and move safely and efficiently through faster movements with higher reps or with higher weights as a progress in your training. And the last principle that you can use to help learn proper technique in your training is going to be understanding biomechanics. So this is basically how your body moves. You need to know and be aware of how your body moves and how it is moving when you're doing your lifts. There's a wide range of ways that your body can move, but there are 3 main elements that you should focus on, especially when trying to do functional movements in the gym, to make sure that you're lifting safely and efficiently. So first of all, it's going to be bracing. So you're thinking about what's not moving. So for the deadlift example, you're not moving through your spine or through your torso. So you've got to really think about bracing your core. Quite often, every time you're lifting an external load, you're not moving through your midline. You don't want to be flexing through your spine. So when you're doing deadlifts, squats, pressing, cleans, you want to think about bracing and holding your midline rock solid in position, and then just moving about the hips. So really being aware of what muscles you're going to be bracing when doing functional movements is going to allow you to lift much more safely and protect your spine and protect your lower back long term. The second concept of biomechanics is going to be focused on the lower body. So this is very specific for lower body movements. Whatever movement that you do that requires lifting through your lower body, you always want your knees to track over your middle toe. So you never want your knees to cave inwards, because it's very weak and not very strong there, and that's how you damage your knees long term. But whatever movement you're doing, if your knee can track over your toe or even get pushed out towards the side, that's when you're going to turn your glutes on and you create an arch in your foot, which gives your leg so much more stability. When my knee's in like this, I'm much more off balance and it's harder to be steady and be still. When my knee is externally pushed out, my glute is turned on much more there. The arch of my foot is activated and my leg is in a much more stable position. So whether I'm doing squats, whether I'm doing lunges, or even leg presses, you never want your knees to cave in, and you always want your knees to track over your toes so that you can protect your legs long term and have much more strength and stability in whatever movement that you're doing. And the final concept of biomechanics that you need to understand is your center of gravity. So every time you're lifting weights, that weight becomes your center of gravity. You don't want that weight to be far away from you, because when it's far away from you, you don't have much control and it's putting much more tension and pulling your bodies in ways it doesn't want to be pulled. Every time you're lifting a weight, you want it to be your center of gravity. So for example, when you do a squat, whether it's in the front position or it's in the back position, that bar is going to be your center of gravity, or even if you use the dumbbell, that is going to be your center of gravity. So you want that always to be over your midfoot. If you're doing a squat and you're coming out like this, with the weights out in front of your midfoot, it's putting a lot more tension on your lower back, and you have much less control if this was a really heavy weight. But if this weight always stays over my midfoot, it's always the center of my gravity, and I have much more control over the weight, and the weight's not going to be pulling me around, and I can really move safely and efficiently with that movement. Likewise, if you're doing body weight movements like press ups and pull ups, your center of gravity is going to be your midline. So you always want to keep your midline central to the movement. The squat is a really good example of all those three concepts. When you're doing the squat and you have the weight at your chest, you want to think about bracing your core, not letting your spine flex. You want to think about your knees tracking over your toes as you lower down, and you want to think about keeping that weight your center of gravity. That's a really good expression of those three concepts of being aware of your biomechanics when doing functional movements, and those three apply to most functional movements out there. So applying these three principles to your training to learn proper functional movements will allow you to have much more confidence in the gym. You'll feel much less awkward when training, and you'll be much more efficient and be able to get more reps and more weight into these movements, which will allow you to give more adaptation and get fitter much faster and see progress much more sustainably long term. So if you enjoy this kind of content and you want to learn more about how to go from zero fitness to being in the best shape of your life, then you better subscribe, because more videos like this are going to come out. And if you have any questions around these concepts of learning functional movements, just drop a comment below, and I'll make a video of it in the future.